So, you may have heard people say if you have a powerful why, you can do anything. If you have a powerful why, you can do anything. Welcome to the live, you guys. So, I just wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about what I shared earlier in my stories this week, which is a topic that's very near and dear to me, which is Huntington's disease. And I share about this topic because it seems like it could have maybe not a lot to do with relationships, but I share about Huntington's disease because it is something that affects my family. And I know that there's something that affects everybody. Everybody's dealing with something. Everybody's got some sort of challenge that they're facing. And maybe they're facing it with family. And maybe they're facing it by themselves. And maybe nobody knows about it. And so my why, my motivating factor when I'm most scared to do things is Huntington's disease. And so what is the background behind that? Well, when I was 18, I found out that my dad had this disease called Huntington's disease. And if you haven't heard of it before, what it looks like is Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and ALS at the same time. It's pretty freaking ugly. To me, it's one of the worst things that you could go through. And at the time, my dad wasn't involved in my life. My mom raised me by herself. And so my dad was not really interested in being a dad. And so I wasn't really that interested in engaging with him. Had a lot of resentment towards him. And then I found out later, when I was 18, and my dad took me out for a movie and he was slurring his words and he was kind of stumbling as he was walking. And I thought, Mom, I don't want to see my dad again. He's drunk. And she said to me, no, Simon, he's got Huntington's disease. I'm like, what's that? She gives me the details. Now, why I'm bringing this up with you now is one, to give awareness towards Huntington's disease, but another is to kind of have some compassion and openness for that we're all dealing with something. Everybody's dealing with something. Whether it's a challenge in your family or a disease or what have you, we've all got something that may be influencing what we believe is possible or what we believe we're capable of. I found this out at 18. I also found out that there's a 50% chance that I'm positive for this gene. Fast forward half a decade later, and I get tested for this gene, and I find out I too have the genetic predisposition to Huntington's disease, which, according to modern science, there's a 100% chance that I'll get Huntington's disease as well if I live long enough to do so. Now, I'm committed that that's not going to happen. We're going to find a cure. We're going to figure this thing out. But why I'm sharing this with you again today is because for me, I'm so present to how short life is because of that disease that when I'm scared to take action, I'm more scared of the not taking action. When I think about something I'm afraid to say, whether it's getting married to my wife and us expecting our first child, or conversations with my mom or family that I get nervous about, whatever it might be, I go, you might not get to ever have this conversation later. Huntington's disease is so brutal that it just takes your brain away. And so if that's the case, then what's scarier? Not saying the thing or saying it knowing that you don't get a chance to say it later. And so often, we do this in my program, often we're actually not motivated by the thing that we really want. I really, really want to be in a loving relationship. I really, really want to have my partner step up in new ways. I really, really want my career to be fulfilling. Often that's actually not the thing that motivates us. Typically what motivates us is the thing that we're scared of. But we're often not present to that fear. So if you take a relationship, for example, maybe you really want to be in a loving, committed relationship. And maybe you see someone you want to talk to, but then you get nervous and scared. Or maybe you're dating someone and you don't bring up the things that you want to bring up to take that relationship to the next level. So fear stops you. But there's a risk in either direction, right? If we don't take any action, there's a risk also. So what is the risk if I take no action? Well, I use Huntington's disease like if I take no action, well, the result is down the road, my brain's going to fall apart and I won't be able to do anything. And so if you look at it like a relationship standpoint, okay, if I don't talk to this person, if I don't set my boundary, if I don't have this scary conversation, if I don't, try to make somebody laugh, even though I'm embarrassed or worried, well, the alternative is I don't get to meet someone new. I don't get what I want in a relationship. Okay, what if that keeps happening for years? All of a sudden, the fear of not getting what you want can motivate you to take that action you're scared of. And so this is something I do in my program where we start to look at, okay, what is it you really want? Okay, what would it take to have that? Now, what's the predictable future if you don't take action on this? What's the likely picture for you if you don't take any action? You get really specific about that, suddenly it's like, oh shit, I want to take some action. I want to make some shifts. That's like sometimes in my content, I'm looking to encourage people to get fed up. Being fed up is such a good thing. Like, I'm fed up with how this relationship's going. Like, I'm fed up with being single. Like, I'm fed up with the way my family talks to me at family reunions. Whatever it is. Being fed up means you're now no longer willing to tolerate what's going on, which means you might just be courageous enough to make a change. But often it takes getting fed up for things to change. And so part of that is being able to look and go, what's the predictable future if I don't take action? Yeah, if you do take action, it might be scary. You might get embarrassed. You might get worried. You might make a fool of yourself. You might get rejected. But what if you take no action at all? Invite people to engage in that question. What's the predictable future if you don't take action? What's the predictable future if I keep putting up with treatment that I don't like? Well, the predictable future is you're going to keep getting that treatment until it gets interrupted. Well, let's play that out. Let's play that out for a year or 3 or 10. All of a sudden it's like, hell no, I'm not up for that. But most of the time we don't even look that far ahead. So we keep a circle going, a circle of stress, a circle of disappointment, a circle of behavior that we don't like or don't want. Once we get present to what it's costing us to keep that up, suddenly taking action is just like a no-brainer. It's still going to be scary, but you might have more courage to take that action. That's why my program is called Love Over Fear. Choosing love over fear rather than waiting for fear to disappear and then be loving. It doesn't really work like that. So wanted to give you an insight to my experience and my why, and hopefully you got something out of that for those of you that joined. And that's it. That's all I had for you. Does anybody have any questions? Happy to spend 3 or so minutes here answering some questions. Anybody have any relationship questions they wanted to ask? Or Huntington disease questions? Oh, cool. You've been studying Huntington disease in medical school. Devastating. I'm so sorry, but you're absolutely right. We're discovering new therapies and evidence for cures. Yes, there's lots of momentum in this direction. I've personally donated my spinal fluid to help with studies in Vancouver, Canada. And there's lots of great things happening, lots of great doctors working on it. So I'm very excited and getting curious about what else could make a difference for therapies and cures. You know, there's things that can surprise us, blind spots that we might not be aware of. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Any other questions or shares? Anybody else want to ask a question? I'll stay on for another minute or two. If no one asks one, I'll talk to you later. Anybody have any other questions? Maybe something to add about my dad too. Okay, there we go. The question comes in. How do you stop glancing at your phone waiting for someone to text you? I know that feeling. Well, my first thought is you're in your head in that situation. You're in your head. So I would encourage you to let yourself be distracted by something, for one. And like, that's the kind of immediate response, but the next thing would be to look deeper, because you looking at your phone waiting for that message is a sign of some sort of insecurity. Like you're waiting for a message to provide you with a feeling. So there's deeper work for that, but I would just say, look for something to be able to distract you, and maybe ask the question of, what am I hoping this message will provide me with? What am I hoping this message will provide me with? And then let me scroll up and I'll answer some more. Am I married? Yes, I'm married, and my wife and I are expecting our first child in 2 months. Less than that actually now. Oh my gosh, 6-7 weeks. Tips from moving on from avoidant partner. From moving on. Well, first, you want to look at everything you could get responsible for what didn't work in that relationship. That's going to take some work. We do that in module 5 of my program, just so you know. And the other part would be to take a look at, well, if you're hung up on an avoidant partner, what did you save yourself from by ending that relationship? What are you now making available for yourself by ending that relationship? Start to engage in that question. Because if you look there, you're going to start to see the value and courage that you had and the new possibilities that are now available for you that wouldn't be if you continue to focus on what could have or should have happened in that relationship. That'd be my quick 2 cents. How do you begin to trust yourself, feel good enough to date somebody? Start small. I would start really small. What can I trust myself in? Okay, I'm scared to date somebody. Okay, can I trust myself to maybe go somewhere new? Just go somewhere new. No pressure to go meet someone. No pressure to go talk to someone. Just keep it simple. Okay, I'm going to try a new hobby. I'm going to try a new place, a new restaurant, whatever it is. I'm going to go somewhere new. And then begin to believe, okay, I did that. I got a bit more confidence. Then look at what's the next smallest step. I really believe in 1% actions. We have this thing in my program called the Daily 1%. And I really believe that that's the best place to put your energy. Not in the huge, gigantic, dramatic actions, in the simple, what is something that's 1% of an improvement from yesterday? You do that, that's 365% in a year. That's extraordinary momentum. That's huge. So that'd be my invitation there. What was the hardest moment in my life? It's a big question. What was the hardest moment in my life? Oh, I don't know. My first thought goes to getting tested for Huntington's disease. When I got that test and found out that I was gene positive. That changed my life forever. I'm not sure if it was the hardest though, because it provided a lot of inspiration. Like I remember sitting at the doctor's office. There's a whole big 3-month process to get tested for HD in Canada, where I'm from. And I remember sitting there. They're like, "Are you sure you want to know?" And they ask you this because 25% of people who find out they're gene positive end up killing themselves within 5 years. That's how brutal this disease is. That was not going to be me. And they said, yes, I want to know. And then doctor, counselor, friend of mine, and said, okay, let's get right to it. So Simon, you have this many genetic repeats, which means you are gene positive for Huntington's disease and you will get it at some point in your life, according to current medicine. And I thought in that moment, I wanted to take a chair and throw it against the wall. I wanted to start screaming and yelling and punching things. And gratefully to the work that I've been getting personal development for the last 11 years and continue to, I was able to pause and get back in the room, get out of my head of all my fears and concerns, get back in the room. And I looked directly at the doctor. I looked at the counselor, I looked at my friend. I said, okay, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this to live a full life. I'm going to use this to motivate me. I'm going to use it to inspire people. And the counselor kind of chuckled. She said, I'm not surprised you'd say that because I've been working with her for a little bit. And so that was like the hardest moment, but it became to me also one of the best moments because like I said earlier in this live, I use it to motivate me when I'm scared of something. It's like, oh, you don't want to talk to that person? You're scared of how you might look? Well, what's scarier, that or Huntington's disease? Fucking Huntington's disease. Then after that, it's like, whatever's else, no problem, let's go. So this is part of the really beautiful thing about getting connected to our fears rather than trying to squash them away. When we get connected to our fears, they become unstoppable. It's like, okay, this is my mirror of like how scary something can be. Well, everything compared to that is like, let's go. Doesn't mean I'm not scared. Doesn't mean I'm not plenty scared of lots of things, but it becomes just this beautiful kind of contrast to inspire action in the face of fear. Thank you for that question. How do you put trust in someone? I'd go back to that 1% again, bit by bit. You know, a lot of people wait for someone to be trustworthy to put trust in them. I don't agree with that. Trust is always going to be a risk. A lot of people are trying to mitigate that risk and not take the risk. It wouldn't be trust if there wasn't a risk. So start gradually. Start gradually and you'll begin to build up your courage. But what you want to recognize about trust, it's not so much about what the other person does. That's going to have an impact, of course. It's more so has to do with your courage to be able to take that risk. And so it's less about trusting them and more about trusting yourself that you'll be okay no matter what they do. I'll say that one again. Being able to trust is more so about you being able to trust that you're going to be okay no matter what they do. You know, my intention is that my wife and I live to be in our 90s and we have a glorious life together. And one of us might wake up in 20 years and go, you know what? I'm done with you. I'm fed up with you. Could happen. Can't predict the future. We can put intentions towards the future, but we can't predict it. And so if that's the case, how would I be able to accept something like that? Well, I got to trust and work on myself that I can be okay with whatever happens. So that would be my little bit to work on. Start small and then think more about the trust in yourself that you'll be okay than so much about the other person. Thank you so much for the, I'm privileged to get to do this work and share with people. Yeah, thank you. Super excited about our first child. Can two anxiously attached people be together? Absolutely they can, and they're going to need to get secure. Otherwise, it's going to be hell. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be really hard work, but they absolutely can. I'm a recovering anxious attacher. My wife's a recovering avoidant attacher, and we are both very, very secure now. And of course, we get activated and deactivated into our attachment styles. But it's going to take some big work. Typically, if it's two anxious people that are attached and they want to be together, it's going to take a lot of patience from both of you. A lot of willingness to pause rather than react. Because the key to going from anxious to secure is in the pause. It's in the ability to check yourself and wait for your second reaction rather than your first. Because your first is coming from a fear of trying to protect yourself from someone leaving or not following through on who you hope they would be. So that is absolutely possible. Okay, when you guys ask questions, some of these lives turn into a while, but I like it. How do you get over the feeling of not feeling good enough for so much? I'm not sure if I understand the question. For not feeling good enough for so much? Can you ask that one again? I didn't really get it. You're welcome, Dolores. Thank you for the question. Greetings from Mexico. How did I overcome it? Huntington's, I'm guessing? How did I overcome that? I don't know if I've overcome it, more so if I've accepted the possibility of it. Like I recognize it's not something to get through. It's more something to be with. You know, like it's kind of funny to me now. I don't think about it very much. I used to think about it every day. It used to consume me. But I've accepted the possibility that Huntington's disease could happen, but also so many other things could happen. And it's kind of like this illusion of certainty that we walk around in. This illusion that we're all going to live to like 80 and we've got tons of time. And like COVID's a perfect example. Like who saw that coming? You know? So there's lots to be available for us when we're willing to accept that the only thing that's certain in life is uncertainty, which is challenging because we have this innate need to control. So I think a big part of it is acceptance and also boundaries around how I talk about it, how often I talk about it, you know, how I engage. I've been to Huntington disease conferences in different parts of the world, and seeing a lot of people with the disease symptoms is very difficult. If you've ever seen someone with Huntington's disease, they look like they're drunk. And it's hard to see a lot of people like that because I can sometimes let my brain go to picture myself in that state. And that's probably one of the most difficult feelings that I experience at times. So just things to be with and then stepping away. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie Waffles. Just scrolling. Oh, mental health hockey joined. Good to see you, man. I'll just answer maybe one or two more and then we'll hop off. I'll do this again tomorrow, by the way, guys. I think I'm going to do more Q&A. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about compensation strategies, and then we'll do some more Q&A. I like this. This is fun. Just broke up a few hours ago with an on and off relationship with a divorce. After 1 year, he states he can't, I don't know the other word that you said there. Okay, well, it's going to be a sensitive time for you right now. There's going to be a lot of fragility. There's going to be a shitload of emotions of maybe anger, sadness, fear, all kinds of things. This is a great time for you to take care of yourself. That might look like sleep. That might look like rest. That might look like how you're eating right now. You know, really focusing on things outside of the relationship and of what has you feel safe, feel good right now. If she told me I was being clingy, desperate, over emotional, after she told me I was in a big trauma and the only thing I did was talking about being emotionally unavailable, I'm not sure what the question is there. Have you read the book called Mastery Love? I know I haven't. Who wrote that? I love books. I have so many on my to read list. It's like the recommendations get out of control because you like want to read them all, but at the same time, it's like, oh man, gotta catch up on the ones I've got currently on my list. Hey, Max, good to see you, man. Am I a therapist? No, I'm a relationship coach. I have zero certifications to do what I do. It's one of the beautiful and challenging things about this profession. Personally, most coaches I actually don't like. I don't get along with many coaches because I believe many coaches are full of shit, pardon my French. But I look at my profession as this beautiful freedom where I get to create a program like the one I have without the bureaucratic red tape that says you can only talk about this and you can't talk about this. That's really awesome because I can be really creative in my program with the people I work with. The challenge is that also means there is no stamp of approval by some board of directors. So this is where anyone who is out there considering coaching, you really want to, have a look at the person's testimonials, want to have a look at the person's demeanor and attitude, really feel like if it's a fit, find out the results of people who've worked with them before, because you don't get that stamp of approval of, a counselor or a therapist. But there is actually, I have a team of coaches that work with me. So I have multiple programs, and one of the people on our team is a licensed counselor as well. How to stop overthinking. Oh man, that's a doozy. This will be the last question I answer here. How to stop overthinking. Well, if you're overthinking, you're in your head, right? You're in your head and you're trying to figure things out and you're trying to control, you're trying to predict the future, probably different scenarios. And so if I want to stop overthinking, well, that's going to take giving up control of something. So personally, meditation to me is one of the most incredible things. I meditated right before I started this live because I wanted to be present to you guys and have myself be the version of myself that's going to be effective. So I would, in quick, recommend you meditation, and that can look like anything, by the way. That can look like us all pausing right now and taking a breath. It can look like that. And it can look like 20 minutes of guided with an app. It can look like all kinds of things. I use the Waking Up app by a neuroscientist named Sam Harris. Highly recommend him. But it's going to be a practice. I don't think you stop overthinking completely. I think maybe you just reduce it or pay attention to the thoughts. So part of that, I think, is just getting out into your body. I think one of the best ways to stop overthinking also can be is get curious about other people. It's hard to be focused on your own problems when you're really listening to somebody else. And so if you're like really stuck in it, give somebody a call and get curious about their life. Start to ask questions going on with them. Suddenly you're like, oh, I wasn't thinking about all the things I'm worried about. Maybe even if it was for a few minutes. So that would be my invitation. All right, you guys are amazing. I'm going to pop on again tomorrow, earlier, probably like a few hours earlier than I did today. And I'll talk about compensation strategies as well as just do some Q&A. So that was fun. You guys are great. Sorry for the questions I didn't get to. I was like, does anyone have any questions? And then nobody answered. And then all of a sudden a bunch of people did. So you guys are awesome. Talk to you soon. Also, if you have any questions about coaching, just reach out in the DMs. You're welcome, Rania. You're welcome, Alexia. Thank you for the question. You're welcome, Jojo Ponce. It's a cool name. Good night from AZ. See you later.